Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Truck Talk with Liz. My name is Liz Astor, and as always, I am delighted to have you join me for another relaxing ride. Here, we journey through virtual roads in EuroTruck Simulator 2, moving cargo from one place to another, all while having calm conversations about various subjects that spark my interest and curiosity, and hopefully yours as well. Today's drive takes us from Thessaloniki all the way to Paris, transporting a load of motorcycles. It is currently March, springtime, so there is a certain freshness in the air, which I hope you can feel, even though we're in a virtual cabin together. In this truck, I am never alone. With me are three little companions who brighten up the trip. Mish the fish, my shark plushie who loves art, food, history, culture, anime, the works. He's always recommending different manga and anime series to me. Andre, a stoic skull ornament who quietly reads a lot of books and corrects me whenever I slip up on a fact. He's usually hanging from where you'd expect a rear view mirror to be. Trucks don't have rear view mirrors as far as I know, swaying calmly back and forth with the movement of the truck. Maxwell, a cat who does exactly what cats do. He may be sleeping soundly in a corner, or casting a majestic gaze through the windshield, or possibly scampering around the cabin in pursuit of absolutely nothing. For this episode, I like to dedicate our journey to a topic from cognitive science known as Connectionism. We'll ease through the many aspects of Connectionism as we pass each border, each city, and each highway. On top of that, I'd like to briefly chat about a film, an anime, and a book that I revisited recently. Born in Flames by Lizzie Borden, released in 1983. Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, and Shakespeare's Hamlet. They've each got their own special flavor, and I look forward to sharing some calm reflections. We've got a long way to travel, over 2,000 kilometers of virtual roads, so settle in, relax, and let's begin. I'll be weaving in details about Connectionism, pausing from time to time to mention the places we're passing through, as well as sharing thoughts on those three creative works. I hope you'll find this ride soothing and interesting. Well, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're setting off from Thessaloniki, a beautiful port city in Greece with a long, rich history. I feel a sense of calm this morning, as the roads are not too busy. If you've never been here, Thessaloniki is well known for its culture and vibrant approach to life. You can sense the legacy of many historical periods in its food and architecture. I always like to imagine stepping out for a real coffee break in this city. But for now, we have cargo to deliver, so we'll keep rolling. Mish is already peering through the windshield. He loves reading up on local customs, and I'm sure he'd be telling me all about the region's events if he had a microphone. You'll have to trust me when I say he's excited. Andre is silent, reading a thick volume about European trade routes, no doubt. Maxwell is dozing off near the passenger seat, perhaps waiting for the moment we start passing rolling roads so he can meow for extra treats. Right at the outset, I want to introduce our main topic, Connectionism. It's a movement in cognitive science that tries to explain intellectual abilities using artificial neural networks. If you've heard of neural networks in the context of machine learning or artificial intelligence, you're already brushing up against Connectionism. The basic idea is that these networks, composed of many single units analogous to neurons in the brain, and weight connections, which are analogous to synapses in the brain, can learn and replicate certain cognitive skills we associate with living brains. The term connectionism has significance because it distinguishes itself from a more classical view of the mind as a digital computer that processes symbolic representations. The connectionist approach proposes that we might understand the mind by looking at how these networks learn and process in parallel, rather than by following a strict, step-by-step set of rules. We're just getting started, so we'll keep rolling. We'll go deeper into the subject of neural networks soon. As for now, we'll keep our eyes on the road. We are coming up to the border in North Macedonia. Sometimes in Euro Truck Simulator 2, we get these random checks. Indeed, I am seeing a message. Let's see what it says. Proceed to the X-ray inspection inside the building ahead through the rightmost gate. Alright, so we'll move carefully to the designated area. Right now the gate is opening and the security staff is directing us. While we're on our way there, let's carry on discussing connectionism. One of the fundamental components of neural networks is the notion that you've got input units, hidden units, and output units. If we were to model an entire nervous system, the input units would be like our sensory neurons. Hidden units would represent internal brain mechanisms that process information, and output units might be analogous to motor neurons. Andre turns to me and says, Liz, remember, the earliest artificial neural networks were feed-forward nets, meaning the signal flows from the inputs forward through some hidden layers to the outputs. Recurrent connections, which send signals back, add more realistic memory-like capacities, but they can be complicated to train. Well, that's Andre for you, always filling in precise details. Basically, in a feed-forward model, each time you present the same input, you get the same output. That might be an oversimplification compared to real organisms, which can get bored or habituate to repeated stimuli, but these feed-forward nets still offer a compelling introduction to how distributed processing might occur. Oh, we have another message. Proceed straight ahead to the X-ray hall. Let's follow those directions. Then I'll read the next update from the border authorities. The truck is now being scanned. The cargo is just motorcycles, so we should be fine. I'm waiting for the next prompt, and there it is. X-ray inspection successfully passed. You may continue. Perfect. Let's slowly roll out of here. Since we are allowed to proceed, we'll cross officially into North Macedonia. For a moment, let's talk about why neural networks are so interesting from a philosophical perspective. Philosophers of mind have debated how the human mind processes information. The classical theory suggests that we have a sort of digital system with symbols and rules akin to a standard computer program. Connectionists propose that the mind might be more like a parallel network, in which knowledge is stored in the strengths of connections across many units. This distinction matters because it aligns with different understandings of how we define concepts, how we handle language, and how flexible or robust our minds can be in the face of partial or noisy input. Indeed, many practical successes in artificial intelligence, such as facial recognition, speech recognition, language translation, have emerged from neural network methods. Now, we're fully in North Macedonia. The day is bright, the virtual sun is shining, and we're still early in our journey. I won't linger too long here, but I will say that this country offers a great variety of natural and cultural beauty. It has a history that weaves many influences together, from ancient empires to modern developments. Mish is gazing at the map, likely daydreaming about local cuisine, because he's always hungry for new dishes. I won't be surprised if he recommends some local specialties, but we'll continue rolling. Next up, we'll be crossing into Serbia. We're approaching Serbia, and we will drive by places like Vranje, Niš, and eventually Beograd, the capital. Serbia is known for its music festivals, vibrant nightlife, and interesting cultural traditions. I find that just by passing through these areas, I get this sense of traveling across centuries of history. While we make our way through, let's look at how neural networks learn. Learning is all about adjusting those connection weights so that the system can do a given task. Often, training methods split into supervised and unsupervised categories. Supervised learning, like backpropagation, uses labeled examples to guide the network towards correct outputs. Unsupervised learning, like Hebbian learning, modifies these weights based on which units are active together, forming self-organized groupings of input. An example of supervised learning is if you have a dataset of faces labeled male or female. The net takes in each face, compares its output to the correct label, and then adjusts weights. Over many trials, the net can generalize to new, unseen faces. Of course, real brains might do something more subtle than backpropagation, but these methods provide valuable clues to how adaptive processes might happen in the mind. In the late 1980s and the late 1990s, Connectionism gained a lot of attention for modeling language acquisition and recognition tasks. Although these networks can take an enormous number of trials to train, they often show interesting parallels with human development, such as how children might over-regularize verbs, saying goed or broked before learning correct forms. Okay, let's keep a steady speed. The traffic as we approach Belgrade can get heavier, even in this simulated environment. Maxwell has awakened, by the way, and is peeking over the dashboard. We've arrived at the Croatian border, and the sun has started to dip below the horizon. The simulator is showing that nighttime is falling. I always find something peaceful about driving at night. There's a hush that descends on the roads, the headlights tracing bright cones onto the asphalt. We're now passing by Zagreb, the capital, known for its architecture and cultural sites. I love the thought of strolling through the city. Possibly in real life, I would visit a small cafe and watch the city lights twinkle on. Right now, we remain in the truck. It's a good moment to steep deeper into the significance of neural networks. Connectionist models mirror some aspects of the brain's distributed approach to storing information. For instance, if you have a net that recognizes letters or words, you'll discover that it's not just one local unit that stands for letter A. Instead, letter A might be distributed across a specific pattern of activity. If part of the net is damaged, it might degrade gracefully rather than fail completely. This is sometimes compared to how the human brain can often cope with partial injuries, albeit with some decrease in function, but not total breakdown. This distributed nature also offers a clue as to how we store categories and prototypes, which can be more flexible than strict definitions. Humans tend to categorize with a certain fluidity, such as this might be a bird even if it doesn't fly. Neural networks accommodate that by focusing on correlated features rather than rigid necessary conditions. Before we exit Croatia and continue our late-night run, I want to mention that we'll soon come to Slovenia. As we move along, I'll talk a little bit about my recent watch of Born in Flames, an iconic 1983 film by Lizzie Borden. I found it especially interesting for the way it deals with the concept of radical transformation. But we'll get there when we get there. Till then, open roads ahead. We're now crossing into Slovenia and heading towards Maribor. Slovenia might be small, but it has a robust cultural weave. Now, about Born in Flames. This film, released in 1983, spotlights a socialist democracy in the United States that claims to be progressive but still harbors structural injustices. The film's central focus is on three black queer women whose vantage point reveals that the official narrative of social progress can hide real oppression. There is a sense that the future is often co-opted to maintain the present structures, so when we talk about the world after the revolution, the film suggests that certain injustices might still persist if we don't question deeper power relations. I found this film's aesthetic approach interesting because it merges documentary-like footage, fictional news broadcasts, and glimpses of official surveillance to present a layered commentary on how power replicates itself through control of time. Despite being set in a hypothetical future, the environment looks much like present-day reality, which underlines the idea that progress can be declared yet remain incomplete. The outcome is an unsettling but thought-provoking portrait of how radical upheaval might be continuously thwarted by official claims of "all is well, just wait." It's a piece that invites us to reflect on the ways that official forces maintain a hold on the future, diverting true transformation. Although the film is sometimes described as an example of Afrofuturism, it rejects the simpler reading of the term as a whimsical, easy progression into utopian harmony. Instead, it suggests that a radical rethinking of time is needed, and that can be a difficult or even explosive process. Mish is nodding eagerly, probably thinking about how that resonates with the idea of subverting conventional power structures in all forms of art and narrative. Meanwhile, Maxwell is drifting back to sleep. Andre, presumably, has read many a critique or essay on the film, but he's graciously not interrupting at the moment. We've now reached Austria. The signage indicates we'll pass Graz, then head towards Carinthia. Beyond that, we have the Lavant Viaduct, Klagenfurt am Wörthersee, Bischofshofen, and Salzburg. Our route is quite scenic, but for now, it's night. By the time we're near the Lavant Viaduct, I hope that dawn might have already begun to break. The Lavant Viaduct is something I want to linger on for a bit. It is a shame that it is so dark right now, but maybe, instead of seeing it, we might get a chance to listen to the game's natural soundscape. Maybe in a future episode we'll drive by here again. Driving across in the early morning hours can be quite a sight. You see the sky slowly lightening, the horizon tinted with the first glow of sunrise. It's beautiful. Since we have a stretch of road ahead, let's resume our talk on connectionism. One key point in the debate between connectionists and classicists is the systematicity argument. Classical theorists like Fodor and Pilishin argued that language and thought exhibit systematic patterns. If you can understand John loves Mary, you inherently understand Mary loves John. They suggested that neural networks only capture these correlations by coincidence, that they don't inherently guarantee systematic generalizations unless you craft them carefully. Connectionists, on the other hand, claim that real brains, implemented as networks, somehow do achieve systematic generalizations, maybe through recurrent loops or carefully designed architectures that capture relationships among words. So it's not necessarily a lucky accident. Some connectionists strive to demonstrate that certain architectures can handle language in a general way. The debate remains lively, with some claiming that only symbolic or partially symbolic models can truly handle indefinite compositional structure. Andre turns to me and says, "Liz, please do not forget to mention Ellman's work with simple recurrent networks. It's very important." Of course, Andre. Ellman, 1991, used a simple recurring network to predict the next word in sentences drawn from a constrained grammar. Despite the net's simplicity, it learned to manage long-range dependencies, such as matching singular nouns with singular verbs even across intervening phrases. This suggests that, at least in principle, networks can capture rule-like phenomena. Detractors say that might not scale to real natural language. Proponents say that if we keep refining it, we might get even closer to the way humans truly handle grammar. We'll keep reflecting on these aspects of connectionism, but for now, the horizon is slowly brightening. By the time we pass Salzburg, we'll be driving in daylight again. Maxwell is stirring. Maybe he wants a nibble of something. We've arrived in Germany, traveling through Bavaria. The morning light is upon us, and it is so lovely to see the rolling farmland on either side. I see on my dashboard that we'll need to refuel soon. Indeed, the plan is to stop near Munich for diesel. That's a big city, known for its annual celebration of Oktoberfest, distinct traditions, and a thriving tech sector. Let's pause for a moment and mention the next creative work, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. This anime story revolves around an elf mage, Frieren, who traveled with a hero party for a decade, defeating a demon king. The interesting angle is that we start the story after the big quest is done. Frieren, who is very long-lived as an elf, realizes how brief the time with her human companions truly was, and how little she got to know them. It's a reflection on mortality, memory, and forging connections across different lifespans. The artwork in the anime does a great job of emphasizing the passage of time, moments that flash by for Frieren but are deeply significant for humans. The show also raises big questions like, what does it mean to create a meaningful life when you know it all ends? Frieren ends up taking up a new journey of learning who her companions were, building new bonds and honoring the legacy of the heroes group. I do have one main criticism of the series, and that is how it deals with demons. While the series grants a level of nuance and sympathy to humans, elves, and dwarves, it still casts demons as inherently malicious. That might feel inconsistent, as though the show is missing an opportunity to give everyone the same nuance. Nonetheless, it's a refreshing twist on the usual quest narrative. Now we see how a hero's story continues after the world saving has concluded. We are now approaching the gas station. Let's pull in and fill up the tank. That cost 1,451 euros. That's a lot of diesel, but hey, we got a massive truck. Good to have a full tank for the next stretch. Exiting Munich, we press on through the Rhineland-Palatinate and North Rhine-Westphalia. These are big regions in Germany, full of industrial might, scenic hills, and vibrant cities. We'll keep on going until we hit Belgium. Let's rejoin our connectionism thread. Another reason neural networks interest philosophers is that they might give us a framework for understanding how knowledge and representation arise. Classical systems typically use symbols with well-defined interpretations. Connectionists note that networks represent features and distributed patterns of activation, so there aren't always discrete symbolic atoms. Instead, meaning can be found in similarities and differences among activation patterns. This can help address the riddle of how we define categories without strictly enumerating essential traits. We should keep moving. Maxwell is curled up again. I think he's used to the hum of the engine. Now, we've passed the checkpoint into Belgium, specifically entering Wallonia and approaching Liège. Belgium is a hybrid of languages. It is often bilingual or even trilingual in many spots, bridging French, Dutch, and even German-speaking communities. After crossing Liège, we'll eventually reach Flanders and the capital city, Brussels. Speaking of hybrids, this is an appropriate place to talk about how different neural network architectures can be combined, sometimes referred to as hybrid approaches. There might be a module with classical symbol manipulation and another using distributed patterns. This blend can handle some tasks better than purely one approach or the other. For instance, we have a memory-like module, symbolic, where data are stored at specific addresses, but also a sub-symbolic module that recognizes complex patterns. Some argue that the human brain might blend both strategies, which is why we can do tasks that appear to require rule-based logic while also excelling at pattern recognition. Alright, let's keep to the speed limit. It's busy near Liège, even in the simulator. We might soon exit into France. We have now reached France, and it seems that once again it's approaching the late evening. Our final destination is Paris, but before we get there, we'll pass through the Channel Tunnel area, interestingly enough, but in this route we're hitting it only from the French side. I won't capture it on video, but a work associate of mine has a very important package for me to deliver to Paris, but the pact of secrecy I swore upon forbids me from talking about whatever that is, lest I face the consequences, which can be quite severe. While night falls over the French highways, let's shift to another question: the possibility of using connectionism to reinterpret or replace folk psychology. Folk psychology is our everyday practice of explaining behavior via beliefs and desires. If the mind is just a big neural net, do we still talk about beliefs as discrete symbolic states? Some thinkers suggest that if neural networks are the right models of the mind, then our everyday talk of beliefs and desires might not literally match what's going on in the brain. However, others think that we can still speak of beliefs and desires as global patterns in the network. The debate continues. Does a purely distributed approach challenge the notion that we hold stable symbolic beliefs? Or can these macro-scale patterns be described in the same terms as folk psychology? This touches on fundamental questions about how the mind's mechanics align with how we speak about everyday mental life. And here we are, at the Channel Tunnel. Interesting. I'll go pick up my package. I'll see you in a little bit. And we're back. It appears you dozed off for a little bit, but don't worry about that. Oh, and the headache, it won't last too long either. David said that the average half-life should be about 5 minutes, but forget about anything that I just said. Anyways, the truck weighs around 34 metric tons, which is consistent with a trailer full of motorcycles, plus the weight of the truck. And off we go. It's nice that everything checked out. While we're moving, I'll mention the final piece of media, Hamlet by Shakespeare. One might ask, why mention a centuries-old play in the same breath as futuristic ideas about neural networks? Well, I see parallels in how these works challenge us to think about the nature of our existence and the complexity of mental processes. Hamlet is Shakespeare's longest and possibly most linguistically rich play, with characters who reflect deeply on duty, morality, life, and more. It's full of iconic lines that have woven themselves into everyday speech. Hamlet's famous soliloquy, "To be or not to be," ponders existence in a raw form, tying mental anguish to the question of whether to continue in life or not. In the same way, Connectionism challenges older frameworks by asking, what truly is the mind? Are we symbolic reasoners or distributed patterns? So though separated by centuries, both raise fundamental mysteries about how we experience and understand the world. The unstoppable flow of time in Hamlet resonates in some ways with the unstoppable flow of signals in a neural network, always updating, always adjusting. That might be a bit of a stretch, but personally, I like to find curious parallels like that. It's getting pretty late now in-game, and we're heading closer to Coquelles. Then we'll drive through Île-de-France, the region that surrounds Paris. Rain will start, which isn't too unusual. There's gonna be a gentle patter against the windshield. We're gonna flick on the wipers eventually and slow down for safety and keep that cargo secure. Given we're nearly at the end of our route, let's gather the big points about connectionism. Number 1. Neural networks are made of simple units of weighted connections. Activation flows from input to output, shaped by these weights, which can be positive or negative. Number 2. Learning in these networks occurs by adjusting weights, using rules like backpropagation or Hebbian updates. In the process, the net can generalize knowledge, albeit sometimes requiring many examples. Number 3. Distributed representations let the net store concepts and patterns across many units, making them more robust to partial damage or noise. Number 4. Philosophical significance arises from questioning how knowledge, meaning, and rule-like behavior emerges in networks. Do we still need symbolic rules, or can these nets handle tasks that we traditionally associate with logic-based systems? Number 5. Systematicity debate focuses on whether neural networks can inherently manage the compositional structure seen in language and reasoning, or if those capacities rely on something closer to a symbolic mechanism. And finally, number 6. Predictive coding and deep learning are newer strands of connectionist research. Predictive coding sees the mind as a system constantly anticipating input and minimizing error. Deep learning uses many-layered networks for object recognition, language processing, game strategy, and more. In essence, connectionism provides a fascinating window into how cognition might be shaped by adaptive, pattern-based processes. If I bring this back to our everyday experiences, you can see neural network-based systems in your phone's voice assistant, or in your favorite search engine, or in translation software. The results may not always be perfect, but they can be surprisingly good, having learned from large amounts of data. Whether that's how we as humans operate internally remains an ongoing question, but it is an intriguing possibility. And here we are, pulling into Paris at around 2 o'clock in the morning. I might have trusted my weather app a little bit too much, as I don't see any rain at the moment, but I imagine that as we drive into the city, the rain will start falling, glistening on the city streets. Paris is often called the City of Love or the City of Lights, but in this midnight drizzle, it will have a special quiet magic. We'll navigate these narrower roads with caution. The drop-off point for our motorcycles is close. This city, with its storied boulevards and iconic architecture, has been a hub for art, philosophy, and revolution across centuries. It's a fitting place to wrap up a talk about connectionism, which at heart is also about bridging old ways of thinking with new expansions of knowledge. Mish looks excited, probably longing to sample some local pastries in the morning. Maxwell is gazing out the window, fascinated by the passing street lamps. Andre silently checks the route on the GPS, verifying we're on track. And that concludes our cargo trip from Thessaloniki all the way to Paris, crossing several borders, navigating day and night, sun and rain. We touched on a broad array of thoughts about connectionism, how neural networks might explain aspects of human cognition, how they differ from classical symbolic views, and how this debate continues to evolve to this very day. We also dipped briefly into 3 creative works: Born in Flames by Lizzie Borden, a 1983 film that ponders radical imagination and the illusions of post-revolution societies, emphasizing the need to question the politics of time; Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, an anime that adds a fresh spin to fantasy by focusing on what happens after the grand quest is over, highlighting the significance of memory, legacy, and acknowledging how life's brevity intersects with long-lived beings. And finally, Hamlet by Shakespeare, a classic that forever invites reflection on existence, choice, morality, and the layered complexities of thought itself. Thank you so much for keeping me company on this quiet night-turn-day-turn-night journey. If you've enjoyed the conversation, please, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments. As always, there's a poll in my post where you can vote on what you'd like to talk about next time. Should we talk about a different philosophical stance, a real-world issue, or maybe do an entire episode discussing the cultural traditions of a particular region? Let me know. I love hearing from you. For now, I'll sign off. We made it safely to Paris, and that's another job done. I appreciate each and every one of you for riding along with me, Mish, Andre, and Maxwell. Keep an eye on that Paul, and I'll see you in the next episode of Truck Talk with Liz. Drive safe, rest well, and never stop being curious, whatever that curiosity might look like in your life.